Hello again. So here it is at last, my completed model of the steam locomotive Mallard. And I should say this is the first self-built or my own creation, mock, steam locomotive I've made of a steam engine since I was a kid and playing with Lego as a child about 40 years ago. If you've watched any of the previous videos about the evolution of this particular model I've been making, I'll give it a little spin. This is what you get for borrowing your wife's cake stand, just to make a video with. I got Hogwarts Express last year for my birthday because I wanted a Lego steam locomotive, and that was a really good way of getting one. And I've made some videos about how I customised that to add more realistic driving rods and add lights and so on and motorise it. And having seen this, my brother-in-law James, who was quite impressed with it I think, said to me, right, you need to go away and make a Flying Scotsman now. And I said, well, I don't want to make a Flying Scotsman because Lego have already made an Emerald Knight, and that's kind of a bit like a Flying Scotsman. And so he said to me, all right, then you've got to go and make a Mallard. So I was thinking, if I make my own steam locomotive, I'll make a nice little tank engine, something nice and simple. But no, my brother-in-law said, no, you need to go and make Mallard. So off I went, and that was earlier this year. We made a very quick rough model, me and my little boy Thomas, we made a quick rough model. That was kind of okay. And then I thought, let's see what I can do about this. And I had a look around and to see what other people had done in terms of making their own models of Mallard, and got some inspiration from there, and then started again by myself. And so I tried to make it 6 wide. I almost did. You will have seen in the previous videos that in making these fairings that go over the wheels, these splashers with a nice streamlining effect, it was just too hard to do that and get the driving gear underneath to work at the same time. So I ended up cheating somewhat, and these bits at the front are 8 wide, but then when you get to here on the cab it goes down to 6 wide. And I have had and continue to have a lot of fun trying to get the gearing of the motor inside, which is inside here, and I'll talk about that a bit at the end if you stick around. Such that it would go at a reasonable speed. I'm still not 100% happy with that. It's an ongoing work in progress, but I'm very happy with the look of it. My little boy Thomas was very keen that we get the stickers on there, so I've got some nice self-adhesive vinyl and got the right colour reference to match it, and then we've got our LNER 4468 and Mallard at the front, and we've got to have the number here at the front again also. So, the other thing that we've got is a little bit of a change to the way that the tender looks at the back here. If I bring it round, I've stepped that down a bit and used a different style of brick with this kind of curved edge there at that back edge. Improved the look of the battery cover a little bit, and I've added some internal details. So if I take the top off here, I can show you those. I'll take the camera. In fact, what I might do is I will just bring it closer too, and hopefully you can see what's going on inside there. So we've got a driver in here now, and our fireman. If I take these guys out of the way, here he is. He can stand there. And our fireman. So room for both. And I've put a little bit of an interior detail in there as well, with some nice brass dials and some control levers and so on. Not accurate, I'm sure, but hopefully gives enough of an impression. And if I turn it all the way around, you might just be able to see. No, you can't, so what I'll do is I will cheat it. Just see that there is a little bit of a door there where the fireman can get the coal. So a little bit of extra detail, a little bit of fun there, making it look a little bit more realistic on the inside as well as the out. So if you stick around, I'm going to show you a little bit of a ride along that we made of Mallard going along the track with some of the carriages, or rather with some of the trucks from the blue cargo train. And if you hang around at the end of the ride along, I will waffle on yet further about the mechanical problems I had making this locomotive. So I hope you enjoyed the little ride along video there. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the mechanics involved in Mallard. Now the main problem was about getting the right motor and the right gearing, because what I decided I wanted to do was to have the four wheels here at the back that Mallard has under its tender, and that meant I couldn't use one of these train motors. So if I put a train motor there, I've only got two wheels. I might have had two wheels and then been able to put a third wheel on, but I wanted to try and have it with those four wheels there. I really wish I'd done that. I would have saved a whole load of problems later on, but never mind, I didn't go that route. So that meant using power function motors in the main body of the train. I did try with a powered up motor, a medium powered up motor, but that won't work in the same way from the powered up hubs. You can't just control the speed of it, even with the app, in the way that I would have liked to have done. So I went back to power functions. First of all, I tried one of these medium motors. Now, these medium motors are quite good. They've got a reasonable speed on them, but they don't have that high a torque. And when I put that inside of Mallard here, it would go at a reasonable speed, but as soon as you start to add carriages to it, it would slow it right down. So the answer was, in my case, to go with a large power functions motor. And then the problem became about getting it to go at a reasonable speed. Now the large power functions motor, looking at some reference material on the web that some people have kindly put together, it's got more torque than these little medium motors. It's got nearly twice as much torque on it, so in theory it should pull harder. It should be able to gear it up rather than just keep it at a 1-to-1 gearing ratio. But that wasn't successful really. Well, not massively successful anyway. So these are some of the gears that I was trying with this. So we've got one of these 12-tooth gears here and one of these 20-tooth gears. And what we've got at the bottom here is a 12-tooth gear, and then you could have a 20-tooth gear and then a 12-tooth gear, and that gives us a ratio of about 1-to-1, which is actually what it's ended up running at, and that goes at okay speed. It's not as fast as you would if you got a train motor in it. but it's kind of okay. So I tried to get it to go faster in my earlier versions of this, and I would have the motor driving a 20-tooth gear, driving a 12-tooth gear, driving another 20-tooth gear, driving another 12-tooth gear, and that give you a 1 to about 2.6, 2.7 ratio of turns, which is pretty fast actually, but the torque drop in doing that was far too much, and as soon as you put any load on it, even just the load of the train itself, it slows it right down. And so I thought the ideal was going to be able to have the motor driving with a 20-tooth gear, driving a 12-tooth gear. But it's difficult to get this large motor any lower down in the chassis, and you can't easily have... I couldn't, for instance, stick another 20-tooth gear up here because of the spacing of these 12-tooth and 20-tooth gears. If you can see, there's 3 axle holes there. There's 1 axle hole gap between them, and that means that that's kind of 1 2/3, and that's 1 1/3 width-wise. So there's no way you can put them next to each other. I did come up with a fancy arrangement where I had half axle hole gaps by using combinations of Technic bricks with the holes in, some of them with the holes centred between 2 studs, some of them with the holes between 1 stud. I managed to get an interesting arrangement there where I could do that, but it was a bit flimsy, it would fall apart. And then I came up with this idea of using the old Technic gears like that, so I could put one arrangement like this. So in that way I've got the motor driving this and this driving the axles of the train. So we do effectively then have this 20-tooth gear driving a 12-tooth gear, because that's just the same gearing, so it's 1-to-1, and that gives us about 1 turn, comes out at 1.7ish turns at the bottom here. I thought, that's the magic ratio, but again, as soon as you start to load up the train, it slows down, and it wasn't going fast enough, and it was being a bit difficult to move. Then I did some improvements onto the train itself. So on previous versions of this, rather than just having a single lift arm or Technic beam across there, I had a combination of the thin ones, and that meant there was a bit of play between these wheels, and I thought, that's no good, we've got to make this as simple and efficient as possible. So I replaced it with one of these 2 fuller width lift arms, which is fine given the width of this, that still fits underneath, but still it only goes at a moderate speed. So I've not really cracked that one yet, and if anybody's got any suggestions on how I can tackle it, I'd be very grateful to hear them in the comments. I should say that a Power Functions extra large motor has yet more torque again, yet more power, but it doesn't go round as fast. So I'd end up, if I used a large motor, an extra large motor, having to gear it down or gear it up, and losing the torque that I would have gained from using an XL motor. So I'm still stuck. I know other people who have managed to get a faster speed by putting motors underneath carriages, and that might be a route I could go, but at the moment I'm just going to live with it like this and maybe come back to it and try it another day, try to improve the speed of it another day. One other thing I should say, a problem with having such a long wheelbase here, from here, which is all the way back to here, and these as the driving wheels, is if you don't have an absolutely level track, then you can get a situation where if there's a dip in the track, the front wheels come up, the back wheels come up, and the driving wheels are lifted off the track and you lose traction. You don't get that problem when you're just using a small train motor which has just got the 2 wheels, which might be having 2 bogies if you've got more than 1 motor, but you're going to have a good chance of your wheels being in contact with the rails. You have problems with this, and I ended up taking some bricks out underneath here, some of the tile pieces here and at the back, such that it's always going to rest on these driving wheels in the middle, like so. So I hope you found that interesting, and I hope that's useful to other people trying to make locomotives like this out of Lego. It's been a bit of a challenge for me, but an enjoyable one. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers.